We've just walked into Design in an Age of Crisis, which was an initiative we set up with Chatham House, because we were all locked down, but we could see at the same time there was so much creativity going on behind closed doors in the design and invention and engineering world, with people making face masks out of decathlon, snorkeling masks and so on. And with Chatham House dealing mostly with policymakers, government advisors, academics, and London Design Biennale talking mostly to designers and architects, we felt it would be interesting to bring those two groups together and look at what the big questions might be that we could put out to the design profession and just see what came back from that. We have here the map, which shows all the different countries around the world who responded to the open call, which was based on a series of design briefs that we put out in the areas of health, society, work, and the environment. The response was amazing, far greater than we had expected, and a far wider range, far more countries. We had 58 countries from around the world. We had over 500 responses. The majority were from professionals, but many were also from people literally working at their kitchen tables and thinking about what would make the world better. And Design in an Age of Crisis seeks to harness that creative energy and make something from it. If we go through into the next room, you'll see what came back. Everybody had submitted their ideas online, but we wanted to show it physically because I think you really get the force of those ideas when you see them stacked up here, one on another, stacked up in this kind of cathedral of creativity. In the centre of this display, we picked out 12 projects that are highlights in a sense, but I do think it's important to say that they're all, in their way, highlights. Lots can be looked at online beyond this show as well.
I wanted to submit this project to Design in an Age of Crisis because I was drawn to the way in which design was positioned in this brief, not as something which brings about some new product, but rather design as a way in which we can see our surroundings and environment more clearly and empathetically. And with this way of seeing, coupled with design thinking, making, and curiosity, we may be able to make these environments and the world at large more livable and enjoyable for everyone.
It's important to realize that design is everywhere and everything needs to be thought in the way it gets built, because whatever we build stays across for several years in the city and it shapes everyday lives, the way people behave and interact.
We'd like to see it become a movement. Design can play such a great role in creating positive changes in consumer behaviour and thinking about what the impact is of individuals on wider society.
The next stage of transition is not going to be a predictable one. It is going to be one that we need to be able to emerge. We need to centre care. We need to centre those whose lives have always been an act of imagination because they are marginalised and they've always had to reinvent and invent what it means to survive and thrive. And we need to move away from old imperial ideas of control and stratification and predictability through policy and design.
This one is an orchestra made from waste materials. So it's a Royal College of Art person working with a Royal College of Music person. They've created an entire orchestra out of waste materials. And their purpose is not just to make music and use waste materials, but also to approach mental health and the goods that music and coming together and making music together can do for mental health.
With this project, I am hoping to draw attention to what we consider to be trash and maybe showing how we are surrounded every day by a bountiful material landscape that not only can be put to use again, but can be used to bring about joy, wonder, and a sense of togetherness.
So we have interviews with them there, but also some of the Chatham House conversations that were built up around the submissions that came in to take the subjects, society, work, etc., further.
But the reality is the place where most of us have power to create the most change is where we live in cities, through our voting power, through our consumption power, but also, like on the allotments and other places, through the things that we can do under our feet, on our balconies, on our rooftops, in our gardens, through our everyday decisions and lives.
I'd like to see more allotments, not just for growing things, but for growing ideas. I'd like to see multi-storey car parks and the roofs of buildings rented out, allocated to people that have good ideas. And these local allotments could be the start of our new communities.
You know, sometimes it's the policy community that's the initiator and goes to the design world and says, can you make me something that can address this problem? And sometimes it's the other way around, where there is a design looking for a home. And I think either way, fostering those links as early as possible increases the chance of us benefiting humanity.
The third area of the show is dedicated to young people who sent in their submissions. So this is all under 18-year-olds. But this is as much about young people, it's also about the future, because they arguably have the greatest stake in the future. And as we know, they really care about their world. So it's presenting their ideas here and taking them seriously. At the end, we have an ideas tree, and that's to promote the idea this is something we want everyone to get involved in. It's really this idea that design thinking is something we all care about. We can all get involved in. This is not just for professionals. When we put it up, I was worried nobody would have an idea or want to put their idea on the tree, but I shouldn't have worried. We've been absolutely deluged. This is in no way a kind of end in itself. It's a beginning.